Hello everybody, this is Gruesome Fox coming at you with a 450 cost rated match in the Prototype Kämpfer. We're going to be on a massive impact site for this round here, and this is going to be an ace match. I find it kind of funny that in my last video on the buffed Garazulu EH, I was on Colony Interior for that video, and I briefly talked about how that map was very hard to come by in GBO2's map rotation, despite being one of the newer maps that were added to the game. And for comparison, I brought up Massive Impact Site and how this map was much easier to come by in comparison, so I find that kind of comical that I'm immediately following up that video with one on the map that I said was easier to come by. And it is. Massive Impact Site is still pretty easy to find in map rotation, much easier compared to Colony Interior, and I do really like that because I do think Massive Impact Site is a really fun map, one of my favorite of the newer ones that they've added in recent times, so yeah, I really do like this map and its multi-layered structure. Also kind of comical that I'm starting off this video and the last one with a brief tangent on the map rotation of GBO2, but this one will not be as long in comparison because I do want to get into the Prototype Kämpfer, which is a 450 cost support unit and one that I've had for quite a while now. I would say maybe for a month or maybe for 2 months, maybe. A month or some change. Somewhere between that time is how long I've had the Prototype Kämpfer for, and it is a suit that I really wanted to make a video on, but just had a lot of hassle trying to get anything. And the biggest issue with that is that I was just really cursed with this suit when I first got it and I tried to get matches with it, because every time I would use this suit, I would get disconnected from the round I was playing, and it got really bad during one of my Saturday streams where I got disconnected, and I got a penalty level 1 despite being in the good status, and the next day I did try using this suit again in rated to try and get my penalty down, but I got disconnected again, and then ended up in penalty level 2, so that spawned a whole series of me playing the first Spyro game from the Reignited trilogy, which was a lot of fun, but it did deter me from playing the Prototype Kämpfer for a while, at least until whatever was wrong with the network was resolved. I think it may have just been a thing for that week of GBO2 when that incident happened, because since then I haven't had any issues with disconnects and the Prototype Kämpfer. It's just weird because this isn't the first time I've had an experience like this where a suit seemed to really want to disconnect in the matches I was using it in. I had a very similar experience back with the Jagan D type when that suit came out. I would get disconnected from matches using that suit quite often, so it felt like the curse with that kind of got passed to the Prototype Kämpfer here. Again, luckily it hasn't been much of an issue in recent times, and it does allow me to finally get some matches in this suit, because the Prototype Kämpfer is a lot of fun. It does have a really nice arsenal of weapons, including a large heavy machine gun, which has really good accuracy, really good damage. Its stagger accumulation is a bit lacking, but still a really good primary overall for what it is able to do. You have a beam saber as your main melee weapon, which does have a similar downswing to, I believe it is the RF Gelguk that it shares a downswing with. So really nice downswing animation. Actually, there it is right there on screen. So really nice double tap with the beam saber there. You have a sawed-off shotgun as a sub-weapon, you have a pair of dual Sturmfaust, and you have a pair of head-mounted Vulcan guns. And for some of your skills, you do have high-performance balancer, so you can go straight into your melee, and then you have bullet feeder, and then you have overfeed. And I think overfeed is a really interesting skill to have on this suit, because everything on the Prototype Kämpfer in terms of its range kit is a ballistic weapon, which is what overfeed directly impacts once you activate it. So you do get all of the benefits of overfeed for all of your weapons, but you do also have the major downside of not being able to use any of those range weapons after overfeed is over for a set period of time. And I think that is a really interesting way to balance out the Prototype Kämpfer with this skill, is that it kind of makes it almost like a high risk, high reward kind of skill where you can use it and you can get a lot out of it once the skill is active, but once it is over, it can leave you quite vulnerable unless you are really good with the beam saber, you're really confident in using melee with this suit, which, as I mentioned, they do give you high performance balancer with the Prototype Kämpfer, so you can go straight into your melee attacks quite easily, but you do only have a melee priority of 1 similar to most supports, so you're not going to be able to clash with generals or overpower raids or anything like that, so that is something you would have to worry about. I also thought about this because with the recent release of the mass production type Psycho Gundam, I believe that kind of has a similar kind of deal going on, since I think that suit does have overload, which is basically the beam version of overfeed. And when I looked at the mass production type Psycho Gundam's kit, it does look like all of its weapons are beam related. So once overfeed, or not overfeed, but overload is done for that suit, it will not have any of its beam weapons available until they are active again. So I thought that was a pretty interesting detail with the Prototype Kämpfer and the mass production type Psycho Gundam. As far as I know, I think those might be the only two suits that have it where all of their range weapons would be unavailable after the skill is over. Usually every other suit that has a skill like that usually has like one or two weapons that are still usable. So yeah, I just thought that was a neat little comparison between this suit and our banner suit for this week. The aces have been selected, and I may have spoiled it in the title for this video if I did end up going with the title I had planned, but the GOG is going to be the ace for our side, so I'm going to try my best to try and defend them with all of the range weapons that I have at my disposal. I do have to watch out though, since the enemy team does have a Zaku 2 FS Shin Matsunaga, which earlier in this round was able to break my legs with a neutral swing, so I was cautious of that suit throughout the round here, but luckily the Prototype Kämpfer does have that shotgun, which, like most Xeon shotguns, is really good for punching through maneuver armor. I also did a bit of research on the design for this weapon because in GBO2, all of the Xeon shotguns that don't have a stock on them are usually referred to as being sawed off, and previously I thought sawed off only referred to the barrel of the shotgun, but apparently the term can also apply to the stock as well if it's either been shortened or removed, so that was a pretty interesting thing to learn about. Personally, in terms of design, I prefer the Kämpfer shotgun with its stock, but in terms of gameplay, whether it is sawed off or not, it does do everything that a Xeon shotgun needs to do. And really all of the weapons on the Prototype Kämpfer are really nice, and overall it is a really good support unit, so I can't see why this suit is still very common to see at 450. If I could maybe add one thing to the Prototype Kämpfer, it would actually be the ability to use the Gundam 2 bazooka as a optional primary. In G Generation Eternal, I do believe it has a bazooka as one of its attacks. In that game, I think it actually does not have access to the large machine gun that it has here, so seeing as the Prototype Kämpfer does not have the bazookas that the normal Kämpfer has, I think having access to the Gundam 2 bazooka as an optional primary could be really interesting. Granted, the Gundam 2 bazooka probably needs a buff first before we give it to anything else, but I actually don't think there are any supports that use that bazooka, none that I can at least think of, so it would be interesting to actually see that weapon on a support unit. If there is a support that uses the Gundam 2 bazooka, please let me know in the comments. I could be wrong about that one. Again, I don't remember any off the top of my head, but that is going to be timeout mission over. Let's see how we did with this round here in the Prototype Kämpfer. And got some good works in the side chat there. Going to have a mission complete. And let's see what our final results for this round were. Didn't get on the board, but I did beat my rival, and I'm going to be praising the GOG here. And 4th place with 3 kills and 2 loss. Did get 3rd in damage dealt, so not too bad of a round there in the Prototype Kämpfer. And that is going to be everything for the match there. And overall, I'm happy to finally have something to show in this suit because, as I mentioned earlier in the video, the Prototype Kämpfer did give me quite a bit of trouble when I tried getting some earlier matches in it with those disconnects and everything, so I'm glad to see that that seems to have been resolved. I don't know if I would use this suit over the White Rider, but for what the Prototype Kämpfer does have to offer, it is a really good support for 450. But that is going to be everything I have for this video here. Comment down below what you think about the Prototype Kämpfer. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And if that's, I will see you all in the next one. Later.